Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
This hour, a show that was more about murder and less about missing persons. An episode of Mr. Keen, Tracer of Lost Persons from March 26, 1950. This episode entitled The Innocent Flirtation Murder.
It's time now for Mr. Keen, Tracer of Lost Persons. Ladies and gentlemen, Anderson and Colinos present Mr. Keen, Tracer of Lost Persons, one of the most famous characters of American fiction in one of radio's most thrilling dramas. Tonight and every Thursday at the same time, the famous old investigator takes from his file and brings to us one of his most celebrated missing persons cases. Tonight's case is entitled The Innocent Flirtation Murder Case. For Mr. Keen and the Innocent Flirtation Murder Case. Our scene opens in a large suburban home. It is late at night, and a quarrel is in progress. A quarrel that is about to end in tragedy.
I'm sorry about this whole thing. But when you come to your senses, you'll... What are you doing? No! Put that gun down! Don't kill me! Don't!
The next morning, in the office of Mr. Keen, the famous investigator...
Mr. Keen. Which of you gentlemen is Mr. Keen?
I'm Mr. Keen. This is my partner, Mike Clancy.
Sure, and what's all the excitement, mister?
I didn't do it. I didn't kill him, I tell you.
Saints preserve us. What's he talking about, boss?
Pull that chair over here, Mike, so he can sit down. Now, try to relax. What's your name?
Wills. Arthur Wills. I'm a building contractor. Last night I did the most awful thing I've ever done in my life. Put myself under suspicion of murder.
Exactly what happened, Mr. Wills?
You may have heard of Kenneth Leighton.
The architect?
Yes, Mr. Keen. One of the most successful young architects in the country. I went to his home in the suburbs with a pair of dueling pistols and challenged him to a duel.
A duel? In this day and age?
Oh, I don't blame you for looking at me as if I was crazy, Mr. Clancy, and maybe I was for a little while. Crazy with jealousy. It happened just after midnight, Mr. Keen. I'd gone to Kenneth Leighton's home, where I found him alone.
Just a moment. I'll open the door.
Arthur Wills. Well, what are you doing here at this hour?
You'll see what I'm doing in just a second. Here. Take your choice, Leighton.
What have you got inside that box?
A pair of dueling pistols. One for you and the other for me. We're going to have this out once and for all.
Dueling pistols? You can't be serious, Wills.
You can't laugh your way out of this one, Leighton. I've found out about you and my wife. You've been making love to her. And one of us is going to pay for it with his life.
You must be out of your mind, Wills. Mary and I were never serious about each other. It was nothing but an innocent flirtation.
Lies won't help you, Leighton. Are you going to accept my challenge to shoot it out with these pistols?
Of course not. We're not living in the Middle Ages. Put those pistols away.
You coward,
You crazy fool! I'm sorry I had to knock you down, Wills. I'm sorry about this whole thing. But when you come to your senses... What are you doing? No. No, put that gun down. Don't kill me. Don't!
I swear to you, Mr. Keene, that's what happened.
You would first challenge Kenneth Layton to a duel. Is that it, Mr. Wills?
Yes. He laughed at me and wouldn't accept. Then he must have mistaken a move I made for an attack because he struck me and knocked me down. He's a young man and strong. The blow dazed me for a few seconds, and while I was trying to come to my senses, I thought I heard 2 shots. 2 moments later, when I came around, I saw Kenneth Layton lying dead on the floor.
Have the police been notified of the murder?
Not yet, Mr. Keene. I was too frightened to do anything but run. I wandered through the streets all night and then thought of you. You have a reputation for helping a man when he's desperately in need of it, Mr. Keene. Please, help me now before I'm arrested for a murder I didn't commit.
Sit where you are, Mr. Wills. Hello?
Is Mr. Keene there, please?
This is Mr. Keene speaking.
My name is Don Judson, sir. I'm an assistant to Kenneth Layton, the architect. He was murdered last night, Mr. Keene. I found his body. And I'm requesting that you investigate the case on his behalf.
When did you find the body, Mr. Judson?
Early this morning when I came to Mr. Layton's home for a business conference.
Then the police have been called?
Yes, sir. I called them. They've already made a preliminary investigation, and they're looking for a man named Arthur Wills. 2 dueling pistols belonging to Wills were found on the floor, and both of them had been fired.
I see. All right, Mr. Judson. I'll do everything I can. Where are you calling from?
Mr. Layton's home, sir.
I'll be there inside of an hour.
Thank you, Mr. Keene. Bye.
Goodbye. Mr. Wills, do you know who Don Judson is?
Yes, Mr. Keene. He's a young architect, a protege of Kenneth Layton's.
Well, he's found Layton's body, and the police are looking for you.
Then they know.
Your dueling pistols were found on the floor beside the body.
Yes. In my fright, I left them there. They were family heirlooms. The family name is inscribed on them.
Mr. Wills, are you willing to give yourself up to the police while my partner, Mike Clancy, and I investigate your claim of innocence?
My claim of innocence? You mean you don't believe me?
So far, the circumstances are against you. Your word is all I have for your innocence.
If you can't help me, Mr. Keene, I'm lost. The police will find out that I was insanely jealous of my wife and hated Layton for seeing her. I won't have a chance.
Well, Mr. Wills, if I find you're guilty of murdering Kenneth Layton, I assure you I'll make certain you won't have a chance.
Mr. Keene, would I have come here to your office begging for help if I were guilty?
Sure, and many a man's come to Mr. Keene saying that he was innocent, when all he was trying to do was to pull the wool over the boss's eyes. But none of them ever got away with it.
Mr. Keene, I'm willing to put all my trust in you and pay the penalty if you find out that I haven't been honest with you.
Very well, Mr. Wills. We'll drive you to police headquarters, where you'll surrender yourself for questioning. After that, Mike and I will begin investigating this remarkable case at the scene of the crime.
Kenneth Layton must have been a wealthy fellow, Mr. Keene. This house of his is fit for a king.
He was one of the youngest and most successful architects in his profession, Mike. Asked Don Judson to wait here for me.
Well, Judson is Layton's assistant. Is that it, boss?
Yes, he found Layton's body. I wondered to.
Yes?
My name is Keene.
Oh, yes. Don Judson is expecting you. Please come in.
Thank you.
I'm Mary Wills.
Mary Wills?
Arthur Wills' wife.
I see.
Is that Mr. Keene?
Yes.
Well, I'm happy to know you, sir. I'm Don Judson.
And this is my partner, Mike Clancy.
Glad to know you.
Mrs. Wills arrived a few minutes ago. I phoned and told her that the police were looking for her husband. This is Mr. Keene, the famous investigator, Mrs. Wills.
Mr. Keene, I just can't believe that my husband has anything to do with Kenneth Layton's death. And when he's
He's
found...
already given himself up to the police, Mrs. Wills.
He has?
And confessed to the murder?
No, Mr. Judson. Arthur Wills claims he's innocent.
Oh, you've got to help him, Mr. Keene.
I intend to, Mrs. Wills, providing I find he is innocent. Now, Mr. Judson, just where did you find Mr. Layton's body when you came in this morning?
Over there at the end of the foyer, Mr. Keene. The 2 dueling pistols were lying nearby. The police took the pistols as evidence.
I know. I talked to them about it. They found no fingerprints in either gun, however. Apparently, both guns were wiped off by the killer. Oh, Mike.
Yes, boss.
While I examine the foyer, suppose you look through the rest of the house.
Okay, sir.
I'll show him around, Mr. Keene.
Mrs. Wills, if you'll take a seat in the living room inside, I'll talk to you in just a few minutes.
Well, very well, Mr. Keene.
And meet me back here after you're through, Mike.
Right, sir.
This way, Mr. Clancy. What rooms would you like to examine first?
Well, did Mr. Layton have a private study, Mr. Judson?
Why, yes, through this door.
Well, that's as good a place as any to start with.
After you, Mr. Clancy. This study leads to a terrace outside, through those 2 French doors. If you'd like to see it, I can...
Mr. Judson, just keep right on talking. I just saw a shadow out there on the terrace behind the doors.
Someone must be out there.
Act like you're still showing me around. And move over toward the terrace.
Mr. Layton owned a gun, I believe. He never had a chance to use it, I guess, before he was...
Step aside, quick, and let me open them terrace doors. You're looking for somebody, young lady?
Why, I just...
Mr. Clancy, it's Dorothy Grafton.
Get out of my way!
Just a second, miss. Come in.
Let go of me! Let go! You hear?
Mr. Clancy won't hurt you, Dorothy. There's nothing to be afraid of.
What's going on here, Mike?
Well, Mr. Keene, I just caught this young lady out on the terrace. She's trying to get away.
Who are you?
My name is Dorothy Grafton.
She was engaged to Kenneth Layton at one time, Mr. Keene.
What are you doing here, Miss Grafton?
I wanted to speak to Kenneth.
Kenneth is dead.
What did you say?
Kenneth Layton was murdered last night, Miss Grafton.
No. Oh, no. Oh, Don, you didn't...
I didn't do what?
What were you going to say, Miss Grafton?
Suppose I tell you, Mr. Keene. Dorothy Grafton seemed to feel that I was in love with her. She's apparently suggesting that I might have had something to do with Mr. Layton's murder because of her.
No, I didn't mean to.
Suppose we let the facts speak for themselves. Kenneth Layton threw you over long before I ever met you. Isn't that true, Dorothy?
I guess so, Don.
Mr. Keene, it stands to reason I couldn't have been jealous of Mr. Layton because of Dorothy. And another thing, I happen to pin a great deal on my future career.
What do you mean, Mr. Judson?
Well, I haven't been making very much money up to now. As an architect's apprentice, my salary wasn't high. But if Kenneth Layton had lived, one day he might have helped me to become as successful as he was.
Miss Grafton, is it true that you were in love with a murdered man, Kenneth Layton, and he threw you over?
Mr. Keene, I loved him. I swear I wouldn't have hurt him for anything in the world.
Sit down for a moment. I want you to remain here for questioning. Mike.
Yes, boss.
Did you find anything in this room worth examining?
Well, I didn't have a chance to look, sir. But Mr. Judson here said that Mr. Layton had a gun.
Mr. Judson, where did you usually keep his gun?
Right here in the lower desk drawer. He had a license for it, of course. Well, the gun is gone.
Boss, look. Dorothy Grafton's running for the terrace.
Go after her, Mike.
No, you'll never take me.
Come back here. Come back.
Grafton dropped her bag.
I'll get it for you, Mr. Keene. This handbag feels rather heavy.
Yes. Let's see what's inside.
What? That's a gun.
Evidently, Miss Grafton came prepared for trouble. Do you recognize this weapon by any chance, Mr. Judson?
It looks like the one Mr. Layton owned. Yes, Mr. Keene, this is the gun he kept in his desk.
Well, it doesn't seem to have been fired.
Inside, young lady, and no more tricks.
Here comes Mike with Dorothy Grafton. Now we'll see if she has anything further to say about a murder that was started by merely an innocent flirtation.
In just a moment, we'll return to Mr. Keene and the Innocent Flirtation Murder Case. Meanwhile,
these very important messages. Mr. Keene, Tracer of Lost Persons, March 16th, 1950 on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, more of Mr. Keene, Tracer of Lost Persons, March 16th, 1950.
Now back to Mr. Keene and the Innocent Flirtation Murder Case. Mr. Keene, the great investigator, and his partner, Mike Clancy, are investigating the murder of Kenneth Leighton, a well-known young architect. Arthur Wills, a building contractor, is under suspicion for the murder. Wills was violently jealous of his wife, Mary, who was supposed to have had a flirtation with the murdered man. Now a new suspect has entered the case, attractive Dorothy Grafton, who had been jilted by the victim. She has just been brought into the study of Kenneth Leighton's house after trying to escape. And as she faces Mr. Keene and young Don Judson, a protege of the murdered architect.
Why did you try to run away, Miss Grafton?
Because I'm innocent, Mr. Keene. And I know you'll try to pin Kenneth's murder on me.
Mr. Keene just found a gun in your handbag, Dorothy.
A gun, did you say, Don?
Don tells me it belonged to the murdered man, Kenneth Leighton.
Running away like that puts you in line for a murder charge, young lady.
Oh, no.
My partner, Mike Clancy, is right, Miss Grafton. You'll either tell the entire truth, or I'll have to turn you over to the police immediately.
Mr. Keene, will anyone believe the truth?
I will, if you play fair with me.
I stole that gun 2 days ago from Kenneth's death.
Why?
I wanted him to take me back. I loved him so. I was going to threaten to use it on the two of us if he didn't. But it was only going to be a threat, Mr. Keene. I didn't actually mean it.
Is that why you tried to sneak into this house?
Yes. I had no idea that Kenneth was dead. Murdered. I've been a fool, and now I'm in trouble for it. I should have known he wouldn't fall in love with me all over again. There were others in his life.
For instance?
Don Judson here can tell you. Kenneth has been seeing Mrs. Wills. Mary Wills.
Mr. Keene already knows that, Dorothy.
Well, maybe Mary Wills had something to do with Kenneth's death. Or maybe your husband may have killed him.
Her husband's been taken into custody by the police.
Then why pick on me, Mr. Keene?
Because it's not been proven yet that he murdered Kenneth Leighton. Mike, you stay here with Dorothy Grafton and Mr. Judson while I talk to Mrs. Wills, who's waiting in the hall.
Okay, Mr. Keene.
I warn you, Miss Grafton, don't make another attempt to escape.
I'll keep an eye on her, boss. Boss, that sounds like the front door opening.
Wait here with the others, Mike. Mrs. Wills?
Oh, yes, Mr. Keene.
Were you just about to leave the house?
I was worried about my husband. You said he was being held by the police. I wanted to see him if I could.
You'll get a chance to see him very shortly, Mrs. Wills. Dorothy Grafton is inside.
Dorothy Grafton?
You know her?
Yes.
We found her trying to sneak into the house with a gun in her purse.
Mr. Keene, she used to be Kenneth's sweetheart.
Really?
Then he broke off with her. Before that, she was Don Judson's girl. She took expensive presents from Don, jewelry and furs. But she must have thought she could get even more out of Kenneth.
Don Judson told me he'd broken off with Dorothy Grafton of his own accord.
Yes, and it infuriated her. Then she tried to win Kenneth Leighton over.
How do you know all that, Mrs. Wills?
Kenneth told me. She was making a pest of herself, and he wanted to break it up in some way. Oh, don't you see, Mr. Keene? Dorothy Grafton could have killed Kenneth because she imagined she was jilted.
Mrs. Wills, it appears that you're very anxious to place Dorothy Grafton in a suspicious light.
I only want to tell you the truth. Mr. Keene, one thing you must believe, and I swear it's true. Kenneth and I were only friends. Perhaps it might have been mistaken for more than an innocent flirtation, but I remain faithful to my husband.
Very well, Mrs. Wills. I have no more questions right now. You may go to police headquarters and see your husband if you like.
Thank you, Mr. Keene.
Oh, just a moment. I'm going to send someone with you.
You mean you don't trust me to go alone?
Under the circumstances, I am forced to take every precaution. I'll send Don Judson with you.
Very well, Mr. Keene.
And tell your husband to have a little faith and patience. He may be a free man again even sooner than he thinks.
Well, Mr. Keene, I just got a cab outside from Mrs. Wills and Don Judson. Now, what'll we do about this young lady here?
We'll send Dorothy Grafton home, Mike.
You mean you're setting me free?
Temporarily, Miss Grafton. But stay at home until I call you.
I won't try to run away again, sir.
Very well. You can leave now, Miss Grafton.
Thank you, Mr. Keene.
Boss, I don't get it. Sure, she's one of our biggest suspects, isn't she?
Well, I had to get her out of the house, Mike, because I want complete secrecy.
Complete secrecy. March 16th, 1950. Bennett Kilpack as Mr. Keene, tracer of lost persons on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The conclusion follows these important messages from your favorite radio station. Here's Mike Lindell talking about getting your best friend something special.
And Mike, you've done it again. You've brought us an amazing line of dog beds.
This has been a long time coming. It starts with the same patented fill for your dogs now as we do my pillow. I wanted everything covered in sizes from your largest dog to your smallest dog. You can throw them in the washer and dryer. The dogs love it. They asked, and here they are. This is why you get the dog bed. This is the main reason. The dogs love it.
And you've got that 10-year warranty, right?
I can do it because the dogs love it. They don't want to wreck their bed.
And you can get these MyPillow dog beds at a price lower than the big box stores, as low as $19.95. Call 1-800-928-4715, 1-800-928-4715, or go to mypillow.com/pet and use my promo code Wyatt. Treat your best friend to a MyPillow dog bed, mypillow.com/pet. Promo code Wyatt. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of Mr. Keene, Tracer of Lost Persons, from March 16th, 1950.
If she tries to get away, we can find her easily enough.
Well, I guess you're right, boss, but where do we go from here?
Well, Mike, I've just discovered one important clue concerning this case. The clue that may solve it completely. We're going to spend the next few hours going over every one of Kenneth Layton's business records until we find the proof I need.
Well, here's another set of bills, Mr. Keene.
Let's see them, Mike. Only about half of them are marked paid in full. The other half are unpaid. Well, let's keep looking, Mike.
Huh. Here's a checkbook, boss.
Good. Let's look it over. Yes, it's Kenneth Layton's all right. And he had a balance of over $200,000 when he died? Huh. Let's look at those bills again.
Sure. Here's one that was sent to Layton 4 months ago for $1,000.
Isn't it odd, Mike, that a man as wealthy as Kenneth Layton seemed to be couldn't pay his bills on time?
Boss, here's another set of papers. More bills, I guess.
Yes. These were sent out by Kenneth Layton for his services as an architect, not sent to him. And they're all paid up.
Well, they're stamped paid, boss.
And the stamp marks are initialed. Mike, where's your small magnifying glass?
Right here in my pocket, sir. I'm never without it.
Let me have it. I want to see if I can make out these initials.
Here you are, sir. Can you read the initials, sir?
Yes, and I think we've solved the mystery of Kenneth Layton's murder.
Mr. Keene, someone just come into the house. I heard the front door close.
It's undoubtedly our killer, Mike, and well armed, I'm sure. Open that closet door quickly. I'm going to let myself be surprised, Mike. It may help us get a confession more easily. You remain inside this closet with your gun handy.
Right, boss.
Mr. Judson.
I returned because I'd forgotten something, Mr. Keene. I didn't expect to find that you'd remained here.
There were some facts I wanted to uncover, Mr. Judson, concerning Kenneth Layton's murderer.
Oh? Have you uncovered them?
Very thoroughly.
And you know who killed him?
Yes.
I suppose you Sent your partner, Mr. Clancy, after the murderer?
I sent my partner out in regard to something else. There's no need to send anyone for the murderer, Mr. Judson. He's already walked in here.
Really? Mr. Keene, you sound as if I'm your man.
You are, Judson. You killed Kenneth Layton, and I have proof.
If you make a move, Keene, I'll kill you.
That gun in your hand certainly bears out my theory. Although it can be easily proved in any case. Kenneth Layton's assistant, you seem to have handled all his bookkeeping.
Yes. I'm an architect, too, but he wouldn't let me design one of his precious buildings.
He evidently found out you didn't have the necessary talent. That made you bitter and murderous as well. That wasn't the main reason you took Kenneth Layton's life.
No?
You took care of all his accounts. I know that because I found your initials on certain bills.
Did you?
You doctored his account books and kept half the money he gave you to pay his bills. I first suspected you, Judson, when Mrs. Wills mentioned your buying expensive presents for Dorothy Grafton.
I told you I threw her over myself.
True. But you did spend a great deal of money on her to satisfy your own vanity, I presume. You told me yourself that as an architect's assistant, you didn't make very much.
That's very clever, Keene.
But you weren't clever. Sooner or later, Kenneth Layton's creditors would have sued him for unpaid bills. And then he would have discovered your thefts.
He did discover them. And he was about to turn me over to the police.
That's when you decided to murder him. You saw your chance when you sneaked into this house during the quarrel that Layton had with Arthur Wills. When Wills laid on the floor, temporarily dazed, you came out of hiding, grabbed his dueling pistols, and murdered Kenneth Layton.
All right, Keene. Now let me tell you something. I had a feeling you were up to something when you sent me out with Mary Wills. So I made it a point to come back. However, Mrs. Wills thinks I've gone home. And she'll have no way of proving anything against me when they find your dead body, Keene.
You really believe you cover every angle, don't you, Judson?
I covered one that had you guessing even before you entered the case.
You trailed Arthur Wills after the shooting and saw him enter my office building. Then you called and asked me to enter the case as an added cover for yourself.
Right. Now for my final piece of strategy. Here's a bullet for your trouble, Keene.
Drop that gun. Drop it. Ah! Mr. Keene, if I hadn't beaten him to the drawer, he'd have put a bullet in your heart.
You shot the gun out of my hand.
Sure. And it looks like your murdering days are over, Judson.
Yes, Mike, you're right. Judson started with deception, then theft, and finished with murder. A logical sequence of events that a criminal follows. Now he'll end that series of events as it always ends, by being fully punished for his crimes.
And so Mr. Keene finds the solution to the Innocent Flirtation Murder Case. Mr. Keene, Tracer of Lost Persons, is based on the novel Mr. Keene. The radio sequel is originated and produced by Frank and Ann Hummer. Dialogue by Lawrence Cleave. Bennett Kilpack plays Mr. Keene. It is on the air every Thursday at this time. Don't miss Mr. Keene next Thursday when the kindly old Tracer turns to the Yellow Parrot Murder Case.
March 16th, 1950, Mr. Keene, Tracer of Lost Persons, on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. All right, Lum Edwards is trying to do his best to avoid marrying the Widder Abernathy. Let's listen on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox to this episode of Lum and Abner, March 6th, 1953.
Granny's, Abner. I believe that's our ring.
Dog Islam, I believe you're right.
I'll see. Hello, jot 'em down, store. This is Lum and Abner.
And now, let's see what's going on down in Pine Ridge.
Hello, this is Dick Huddleston. Well, this is the beginning of a new week, but for poor old Lum, it's the end of everything. Yes, sir, this is the day that sponsor Moe's Moots is set for the broadcast wedding of Lum and the Widder Abernathy. All efforts of Lum's to find a loophole big enough to crawl out of have failed, and it looks like the old boy is doomed for sure this time. Right now, Moe's Moots is phoning the Jot 'em Down store to make sure that Lum hasn't skipped out. No, honest, Moe's, Lum's right here. Oh, sure, he's going through with the wedding. He knows what it says in the contract.
Tell him to hang up. I'm sick of hearing his name even.
Well, we're going to rehearse the show right away, just as quick as a preacher and the widder gets here.
How do I get mixed up in these things anyway?
Why, sure, we'll use the wedding ring he sent over. Just a minute. Here, Lum, he wants to talk to you.
Well, I don't want to talk to him. Tell him I'm too dad-blame busy getting everything ready.
Hello, Mose? Lum's too busy, he says. No, he's here. Oh, honest, he is. Just a minute. Lum, you better say something to him. He don't believe you're here.
Oh, all right. Granny. Hello, Mose. Well, don't worry. I'm going to go through with it. I'll tell you right now, though, I wouldn't if there was any legal way I could get out of it. Yeah, I know that, Mose. Yeah. All right. Goodbye. I don't know what I ever done to Mose that's made him do this to me.
Yeah, it's just like you was a prisoner trying to escape from the penitentiary.
Yeah, it's just about the way I feel, too. If I had my way, we'd have Sister Simpson play the prisoner song instead of the wedding march today.
Yeah, that'd be a gooder.
Oh, shut up, both of you.
Oh, excuse us.
Well, come on, Lum, let's get the rehearsal started. I ain't got all day here.
Well, Grandpap, we can't get started till Sister Simpson gets here to play the organ.
Yeah, and we've got to wait till the preacher and she gets here. Sister Simpson said she couldn't make it till time for the broadcast, but she knows what to do.
Oh, yeah,
Widder Abernathy does, too, though, as far as that goes. She's been up there 4 or 5 times herself.
Well, yeah, but Sister Simpson's had more experience, Lum. Sister Simpson's played for practical every wedding that's ever been in Pine Ridge, I reckon.
Yeah, a lot of pigeon-toed foolishness going through this spavined-legged thing twice.
By the way, Mose wants us to be sure and use the wedding ring he sent over.
It's monotonous.
Mose says we're supposed to read the prescription on a ring over the air.
That's inscription.
Well, whatever it is, the carving on it.
What's it say on the ring there, Abner?
Oh, ain't you saw it, Grandpap? I got it right here. I'm the one supposed to hand it to Lum at the wedding.
Oh, me.
Here's what it says, to the happy couple, compliments of the Moe's Moots Barbershop.
That's the horriblest thing I ever heard of in my whole life. Happy couple.
Yeah, I heard Brother Reagan say one time it's the happiest time of a man's life when he's, embarking on the seas of matrimony, I believe he said. For the land's sake, Cedric, what are you blubbering about?
I don't know, it just seems so sad, Mr. Lum barking at the seas of matrimony.
For goodness sake, Cedric, hush up.
Well, I just can't help it. Mama always cries at weddings, I know.
Why, sure, all the women folks do. All them women folks that'll be here for the show today will more likely have to bail this place out after the wedding's over.
You ought to get a bilge pump. Now, there's something else I hate about this. It's bad enough having to marry the Widder Abernathy, but having to do it in front of practical the whole town. It's just about more than any mortal human can stand.
Well, you could sit down. No, you can't. Cedric, I told you to hush that up.
I can't help it, Mr. Abner.
Well, you get your eyes so swole up you won't be able to see the crank on the generator.
It just seems like I'm losing an old friend.
Oh, me,
well, for pity's sake, Cedric, don't talk about me like I was going to die. Of course, now that you mention it, I feel sort of the same way myself.
Uh-oh, look what's coming down the road there.
Huh?
It's her.
You mean she?
Yeah, look out there.
I don't want to.
It's the happy bride right there.
Oh, my goodness.
Cedric, now cut that out. I don't know why you're crying. You ain't the one that's having to marry her.
Just look at that fancy get-up, won't you? Looks like she just stepped out of a bandwagon.
Looks more like she stepped in front of one of them.
Yeah, looks like she is a bandwagon. Get a load of that pigeon-toed hat she's wearing.
No, me, there's the outdoingest contraption I ever have saw. Them feathers bobbing up and down. Bound you some rooster over at her place is freezing to death.
What in the world is that nestled amongst them feathers there? Is that a bunch of bananas?
No, that's her hand. She's just holding her hat on.
Granny's. Hope she never hits me with one of them.
Oh, she's got a fist on her, I'll say that.
I believe she's changed the color of her nose. And look how her whole face shines. It's all of a glow.
Glow nothing. I believe she's fell down and hit her cheekbones. Look how red they are.
Yeah, that's just rouge. I might have known she'd deck herself out in all that artificial coloring and flavoring.
Well, I'll say one thing for her. She sure knows how to put that stuff on. There's two of the roundest circles I've ever saw.
Yeah, it looks like she stamped them on there with a biscuit cutter. Looks like a dead-blame Indian, if you want my opinion. Looks like she's all set for a Choctaw war day.
Yeah, it does.
Poor Mr. Love marrying an Indian.
For the land's sake, Cedric, pull yourself together. You don't want the future Miss Edders to see you looking this way.
Abner, don't refer to her as the future Miss Edders.
Well, that's what she is, ain't she?
Not yet, she ain't. I ain't married yet. I got up till showtime.
Yeah. Well, get set, everybody. Here she comes.
Tellers, this is it.
Doggies, look at that big bunch of hollyhocks she's a-toting. Looks like a camouflaged tank moving up on the front porch. Lum, take your hands down off your eyes.
Abner, there's a limit to what a man can stand to look
Well,
at.
take them down now.
Find out what she say there.
Well, good morning, Miss Abernathy. How's the happy little bride this morning?
Hey, howdy, Widder.
Oh, hello, Lum.
Hello.
Lum, she's over here. You're looking in the wrong direction.
Well, let's get started rehearsing.
Why, Lum, you big bad boy, are you just going to stand there and let me hold these flowers?
Yeah, what's the matter with you, Lum? I believe he's bashful.
Oh, here, Grandpap, you'll have to show him how to be a gentleman.
Yeah, he'll get on to it. He's just about to bust an artery there. Look how red his face is.
Hi, doggies, Lum, you are blushing.
I am not no such a thing.
Look at him, Cedric. Cedric, now,
Stand to look at him.
cut out that crying. Now, you straighten up. Here, wipe your eyes off now.
Yeah, let's cut out all this prattle. We're supposed to be rehearsing this radio show, so let's do it.
Oh, wait a minute, Lum. I believe that's our ring. I'll get it.
No, I'll get it.
Oh, go ahead.
Hello, jot 'em down store and wedding, radio station.
Cedric, straighten up.
Oh, what is it now, Mose? How's that? You mean the preacher can't make it at all?
Uncross your eyes, Cedric.
Oh, can't make the rehearsal, huh?
Trying down both sides of your nose.
I see. Yeah, fine. Goodbye. We'll have to rehearse without the preacher. He'll be here for the show, though.
Oh, good.
Somebody else will have to read the preacher's lines. Maybe you can do that, Abner.
Well, I don't know nothing about marrying nobody. Why don't you do it? You're in the business, justice of the peace.
Well, I can't very well do that because, yes, that's a good idea. Yeah, you can read my lines, Abner.
Well, I got my own lines to read. Let Cedric do it. He ain't got nothing to do except blubber.
Yeah, Cedric can do it. Ain't nothing to it except saying I do.
Well, I reckon I ought to study up on it a little while.
You don't need no studying, Cedric. It's just a rehearsal anyway.
Yes, Mom, if I can get my eyes dried out.
Well, come on now. Here.
All right, everybody get to your places.
Wipe them off on his tater sack.
Oh, Lum,
What is it?
you haven't told me how I look in my wedding gown.
Oh, you look fine. All right, now let's go ahead with the...
Is that all you're going to say?
You look charming. All right, Abner, you got the first line there, I believe.
Where?
Oh, yeah. Now for the big moment on today's Pine Ridge Princess program. The moment you've all been waiting for. Last week on this show, Mrs. Abernathy was chose as the princess. And when our smiling Mister of Ceremonies, Lum Edders, asked her what she wanted more than anything else in the world, she said she wanted him for a husband.
Oh, me.
And so, in accordance with the rules of the program, we now bring you, through the curtsies of Mose Moots's barbershop, the wedding ceremonies of Ms. Abernathy and Mr. Lum Edders. Hush up, Cedric. Now, here's the man who is going to perform the ceremony, Brother Reagan.
All right, I'll read his lines then.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Peabody. Friends, we're gathered here today to join together this man and this woman in marriage. And I'll skip over some of this for now.
Oh, get ready, Cedric.
Yeah. I'll skip down to here. Do you, Ione, take this man to be your lawful wedded husband?
I do.
And do you take this woman to be your lawful wedded wife?
All right, Cedric.
I do.
I now pronounce you man and wife. Oh, my goodness.
What's the matter?
Don't you realize what I've did? As long as I'm justice of the peace, I've actually married him. I've married Cedric to the Widder Abernathy.
What's that?
Mom?
Well, wait a minute. What about the show?
We've got to cancel it. If she marries me now, we'll have to arrest her for bigamy.
Well, has Lum figured out a way to get out of marrying the Widder Abernathy? What's Cedric's family going to think about Cedric being married? What's the Widder Abernathy going to do with her new husband, Cedric Wehunt? That's from March 6th, 1953. Lum and Abner and the Pine Ridge Princess program. You know, the takeoff of Queen for a Day. We'll hear more coming up soon here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox tomorrow on many of these stations. Hey, thank you for making us a part of your day. And would you visit my friend Ted at RadioMemories.com? He supplied us all of these Lum and Abner shows that you're hearing now, fully restored in wonderful sound quality. And Ted's at RadioMemories.com. He supplies shows on cassette, CD, or flash drive for your computer. Visit Ted at RadioMemories.com. That's RadioMemories.com. And while you're at it, why don't you come visit me? I'm at ClassicRadio.stream. That is ClassicRadio.stream. There you can stream our shows on demand, learn about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can contact me, find our social media links, and if you are so inclined to help us keep our distribution channels open and help us acquire additional classic radio collections to bring you here, you can buy me a coffee. Do that at ClassicRadio.stream. That is ClassicRadio.stream. Have yourself a great day. Thank this radio station, support their advertisers, and most importantly, tell your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.